Hey guys, it's Paradise, and have you heard that elder dragons may not be the top dogs in Monster Hunter Wilds? Well, if you've been following our coverage, you'll know that we've been digging through a ton of foreign language interviews, and there was one more that we found on a Chinese website called Weibo. This interview had some of the best finds as it discusses elder dragons, the performance in regards to the RE engine, and even how weapon skills work. As with all our videos using translated information, some things here may be mistranslated, but we have used a number of different tools and sources to cross-reference. We know you guys love to see the translated quote on the screen, so remember, we've translated these. Anyway, let's not yap and get into it. Let's start with Elder Dragons. It's always a spectacle when Elder Dragons are revealed, and they always have some type of unique mechanic, and some of the best weapons and gear that you can get from them. However, for Monster Hunter Wilds, there hasn't really been any mention of them yet, and with the recent reveal of Arekkz, people are wondering what exactly it's classified as it's the only monster on the website that doesn't have a classification. Well, in a number of recent interviews, they actually asked about this, and the answer was pretty interesting, hinting at a brand new classification of monster that we'll learn about as the story unfolds. In the Weibo article, they asked, "The monsters announced so far are all relatively conventional types. Will there be ancient dragon monsters this time?" Tokida said, "There were many ancient dragon exploration and investigation content in Monster Hunter World, so we let many ancient dragons appear in various forms. But this time our main theme is not the ancient dragons, but the theme of nature and man. We hope to express the diversity of the environment with both a rich and prosperous side and a cruel and dangerous side. So we can't reveal what type of monsters will appear in the future for the time being. Due to the theme of the game, it's not a situation where ancient dragon species have to appear. We have also decided the types of monsters to appear during the development stage. From what we can take away from this, the theme of the big bad monsters for this game will be slightly different than more recent Monster Hunter titles. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go in, because in another interview with Game Watch, they expanded on this a bit more and how it relates to Arekkz. They asked, an extinct species that has existed in the setting up until now has finally made an appearance, but what role will this monster play in the game? Fujioka said, rather than thinking of them as species like a wyvern or a fanged beast, we use the term extinct species to refer to an extinct entity/species that cannot be seen on the current timeline. So for example, I think after investigation it will be determined what species Arekkz is. The story moves forward with the appearance of a monster that is supposed to be extinct, so I hope you will look forward to that as well. The next question was, even though they play important roles in the story, does that mean they don't appear that often? Fujioka said it's an extinct species after all and laughed, and he hopes that finding out how will play into the story. So this seems like the extinct species may be another overarching title, kind of like Elder Dragons are for the game. Maybe it means we'll get even crazier monsters that can do even more insane things, and we have a feeling this will probably allow them to add in some massive creatures, because we know the landscapes are getting bigger and bigger as it's a huge seamless world, so they will allow for a massive space for huge monsters. But nevertheless, this is going to be super interesting to find out more on. A huge topic of the community though has been on the performance of the game, with recent Capcom games releasing on the RE engine. Players have noticed that the performance of their more open-worldy and expansive kind of games haven't been particularly great, especially on PC. In the Weibo interview, they straight up asked about this, saying, "During the trial play, I could feel that the frame rate at some parts were not so stable. You mentioned that this is not the final version at this stage and it needs to be polished and optimized, but what frame rate do you hope to achieve in the official version?" Tsujimoto said, "This part is indeed not the final performance of the official version, and because of the different configurations in the PC environment, a lot of debugging and optimization are required. We need to give us some more time to finally determine the specific parameters of the screen operation." A follow-up question was, speaking of optimization, there is a saying that the RE engine used this time has certain limitations and certain shortcomings when expressing large scenes. Can you please talk about your opinion as a developer? Tokida says, "I think this should be a problem of development method. We need to change our development method from scratch to seamlessly connected maps on this scale for Monster Hunter Wilds. From this perspective, we will pursue the best performance, so this does not mean that the RE engine is good or bad at certain performance." Now 26 has personal experience with this from his time working in the games industry, and they are 100% correct when saying that we aren't seeing the final performance due to the debugging and optimization not having happened. You have to remember that they are still adding in things, so they don't want to go through and optimize the game until everything is in there, and the debugging can be very taxing on performance, as it often has some massive charts and metric performance charts running in the background. Optimization often happens towards the end of a development cycle when everything is basically locked in. You can think of it like proofreading. You first finish the entire essay and then you proofread afterwards. We can, however, understand the community's concerns, as the last few Capcom games on PC and even console haven't been very smooth. And yes, we're looking at you, Dragon's Dogma 2, and the PC specs for Wilds recommending frame generation, which isn't a good look as well. This is probably exacerbated by the fact that the game, while it does look good, doesn't look massively visually better than some of the other open world games that are already out there, like Red Dead Redemption 2. We think people would probably have a bit more understanding of these requirements if the game was a crazy, expansive, and massively visually impressive world like Star Citizen or Cyberpunk. That being said, we are just looking at a part of the game at the moment, and who can say that there aren't some crazy things that are happening as you progress more towards the end of the game and Capcom starts to reveal more. We think a perfect example of this is during TGS, where we saw a massive performance uplift compared to the Gamescom demo. The TGS gameplay looks like it's running way closer to 60 FPS, while the Gamescom footage was definitely way closer to 30. Personally, we think that with everyone chiming off about the performance, Capcom is probably listening and making it a high priority for release. So rather than straight up dogging on the game, it hasn't been released yet, so let's reserve judgment until it has. I don't really know what you think, but it feels like it's a bit too early to judge, especially given TGS showed far better performance than Gamescom. On a more positive note though, when they were asked about the story, the dev team have said that they are making a game that is aiming to satisfy everyone. The story in Monster Hunter games has always been serviceable for the gameplay, but this time they have a big focus on it. I was recently talking to someone that had never committed to playing Monster Hunter before because the story just wasn't as grand as other games. So it's nice to see them implement a better story, which will no doubt be a gateway into getting more people involved in the series. In the interview they said, "We played the game from the beginning during the TGS demo. It felt like the story was more substantial than before. But was there a reason for you deciding to strengthen the story?" Tokuda said, "Even from the time of Monster Hunter World, I wanted to put effort into getting people used to the game while playing a little bit of the story. After Monster Hunter World Iceborne, I knew from various voices that there were quite a few people who played alone for a long time. By properly expressing what we wanted to express with this game through the story, we realized that if we wanted to convey not only the game design's concept, but also the seamless feeling of depicting people as part of the ecosystem and the movement of human emotions, the story would have to be written in great detail. For these reasons, we put a lot of effort into writing the story this time." Well, it's very cool to hear that they are expanding on the Monster Hunter world, and we've already had hands-on with the story, and you can instantly tell there is a lot more effort in it. A huge mechanic for Wilds, though, is the ability to switch weapons on the fly by using your Sacred, basically giving you 2 weapons to play with at any time. One of the long-standing questions that we've had, though, was how this would impact our builds, as if you're using one weapon with a ton of skills that applies to it, and then switching to another weapon, many of those skills will become irrelevant for the other weapon. For example, switching between a melee weapon and a ranged weapon will have this problem. But now we know a bit more about the weapon skill system, as in an interview they asked, "Although we can carry 2 different weapons, the equipment on our body should only be compatible with one of the weapons, right? Will this affect the usage of the other weapon?" Tokuda said, "For this part of the adjustment, this time we adjusted the mechanisms to equip attack-related skills to weapons. When switching weapons, the skills on the weapons will be automatically activated. In addition, the skill combination can be matched through accessory adjustments. So when switching different weapon types, you can switch the equipment that is compatible with the other weapon." So this does sound very cool, meaning we'll have more skills and a talisman that can adapt to our currently equipped weapon. This makes both weapons a lot more effective in a hunt, and hopefully alleviates a lot of that concern for many players. Thanks to Nyx, an awesome speedrunner who you should definitely check out, we've also seen that there will be decorations that hint to special attack weapon skills with this little icon here. Our speculation for this could be that these decorations activate the skills that Tokuda spoke about. One thing for the solo hunters out there though, if you were wondering about how the support hunters will scale when you're hunting with them, it's been confirmed that the monster will scale to the multiplayer health pool when you summon them. For those that don't know what this means, when you're playing with more hunters, the monster's health and status resistances will increase per player hunter, and this is now confirmed as the case for the NPC support hunters too when using the SOS flare. But do note the support hunter's carting does not count towards the cart limit, so there's a few things there to consider before summoning in those support hunters. But what did you think about all of this and what stood out to you? For me, it is the fact that this extinct species of monster could be a much bigger thing than just Arkveld. So drop a like below if you enjoyed this update and subscribe for more videos on your favorite games and Monster Hunter coming very, very soon.